All right, let's dive right into this explainer by confronting a massive, honestly, kind of baffling modern paradox. Every single year, billions of dollars get poured into financial education, and we're all taught a very, very simple equation. Spend less than you earn and invest the rest. I mean, it's basic math, right? A 12-year-old can totally understand it. And yet, perfectly intelligent professionals, we're talking doctors, engineers, academics, are constantly finding themselves stuck living paycheck to paycheck, while global consumer debt is literally hitting historic all-time highs.
It really makes you pause and think, doesn't it? If the numbers are so simple and we have all the calculators and financial data in the world right at our fingertips, why on earth are we failing? Seriously, if finance is just math, why are smart people broke? Well, the answer requires a complete reframe of how we actually view money. Doing well financially has almost nothing to do with how smart you are and literally everything to do with how you behave. We love to tell ourselves that we make logical financial decisions based on hard data. But the reality? Your brain is actively wired to sabotage your wealth. Your financial struggles aren't because you lack intelligence. They're happening because you are fighting a daily battle against your own evolutionary biology and deep-seated cognitive biases.
So let's meet villain number 1, the evolutionary trap.
To really understand why you bought that expensive gadget you didn't actually need last week, we have to travel back about 50,000 years. For the vast majority of human history, our ancestors lived in a state of absolute extreme scarcity. Picture a caveman wandering through the wilderness and suddenly stumbling upon a bush completely full of sweet berries. The only logical, survival-driven thing to do in that exact moment was to eat every single berry immediately. Saving them for next month? Just not an option. They'd rot or another tribe would just steal them. In a world of severe scarcity, immediate consumption literally equaled survival.
And psychologists actually have a name for the exact psychological glitch we inherited from those ancestors: hyperbolic discounting. It basically means our brains are hardwired to value a small reward right now drastically more than a much, much larger reward in the future. Your logical mind totally knows that saving $100 today will compound into thousands for your retirement. But your primitive, evolutionary brain sees the pair of shoes on sale and just screams, "Consume it now, the future doesn't exist."
And you see, this is exactly where the massive clash happens. When you struggle to save money, it doesn't mean you're lazy or undisciplined. You are simply trying to navigate a modern world of extreme financial abundance using a biological brain built entirely for the Stone Age. It's a huge pattern interrupt to realize that your logical mind is constantly wrestling with thousands of years of biological programming.
Which brings us to villain number 2, the marketing trap. Modern corporate marketing teams?
Yeah, they understand our psychological blind spots perfectly. They expertly exploit the fact that we completely lack an intrinsic radar for what things are actually worth. And they do this using a highly effective cognitive trap called anchoring. Because we humans have zero objective radar for the true cost of a watch, a pair of jeans, or even a plate of food, our brains completely rely on the very first piece of information we receive to judge its value. This tactic is used absolutely everywhere, from retail stores to real estate, to dictate exactly how we perceive cost.
Let's walk through exactly how this works against you in the real world. Imagine you walk into a clothing store, and the very first thing you see is a jacket with a price tag of $300. Instantly, boom, your brain is anchored. It automatically registers that jacket as an expensive, premium, luxury item. But wait, right next to it is a bright red sign, 70% off today only, now just $90. Suddenly, your brain absolutely lights up with a massive hit of dopamine. You don't feel like you're giving up $90. You feel like you just won $210. The store strategically anchored your perception way up at $300 just to make that $90 outlay feel like an absolute steal.
So here is the harsh, crucial takeaway. You didn't save $210. You spent $90. And chances are that jacket was manufactured for maybe $8 and was never ever meant to be sold for $300 in the first place. Anchoring simply drained your wallet while giving you this illusion that you were being incredibly financially savvy. If you don't recognize this trap, you're going to spend your entire life falling for sales that quietly, slowly leave you broke.
Moving right along to villain number 3, the social trap.
We are tribal animals. Historically, our standing within our social hierarchy literally determined our survival and our access to resources. Today, that deep-seated need for social proof and status is expressed through visible consumption. Author Morgan Housel really hit the nail on the head about this mirage of modern wealth. He said, spending money to show people how much money you have is the fastest way to have less money.
We constantly confuse looking rich with actually being wealthy. Rich is just a current income stream put on loud display. It's the leased sports car, the designer clothing, the massive mansion. It is entirely visible. Wealth, on the other hand, well, wealth is silent. It's the unseen, unspent money sitting quietly in investment portfolios, real estate equity, and high-yield accounts.
Truly, wealth is what you don't see. Wealth is having options. It's the absolute flexibility and profound psychological freedom to wake up and do whatever you want. But because true wealth is practically invisible, we don't really have role models for it popping up on our social media feeds. Instead, we end up emulating the people spending money to signal success to total strangers, rather than emulating the people who are actually quietly accumulating assets and buying their own freedom.
All right, let's fix this. Here is the solution: reprogramming the brain.
So, now that we know our brains are biologically wired to spend, heavily manipulated by clever marketing, and pressured by social status, how do we fight back? Well, you absolutely cannot do this through sheer willpower alone. Willpower is a finite resource. It runs out after a long, stressful day. To win, you have to build systems that completely outsmart your own psychology. Let's dive into 3 concrete behavioral hacks you can implement today to completely bypass those evolutionary and societal traps.
Hack number 1, automate your discomfort. Since your primitive brain literally wants to spend whatever is in your pocket, the magic trick is to remove the money before you ever even see it. Set up automatic transfers the exact second your income hits your bank account, sweeping a percentage straight into an investment fund. If you never see that money in your primary balance, your brain psychologically adjusts to living entirely on what's left. Out of sight, out of mind. It effortlessly defeats lifestyle creep by making the act of saving entirely passive.
Hack number 2, the 48-hour decompression rule. Make it a hard rule to never buy a non-essential item the moment you discover it. When you see something that triggers that intense, emotional must-have response, force yourself into a 48-hour waiting period. Put it on a list and just walk away. This deliberate pause allows that initial emotional dopamine spike we talked about to completely clear out, which lets your logical prefrontal cortex kick back in to evaluate if you actually truly need it.
And finally, hack number 3, shift your status symbol. You need to fundamentally change what makes you proud. Swap the temporary, fleeting high of consumer luxury items for the profound, deep psychological peace of mind that comes from having real resilience. Shift your goal to having 6 months of living expenses completely in cash. Knowing an unexpected emergency cannot ruin your life, I promise you that is infinitely more rewarding than any consumer purchase meant to impress strangers. Ultimately, true financial freedom isn't about accumulating a massive pile of stuff. It's about buying back your time and your independence. The numbers in your bank account are simply a reflection of the behavioral choices you make every single day. So I want to leave you with this final, provocative thought to chew on. Will you take control of your psychology, or will you let your evolutionary biology dictate your financial destiny? The choice, and the wealth that follows, is entirely up to you.